What's going on, guys? I'm back once again with my weekly NFL recap video to recap week 3 in the 2012 NFL season, and what a crazy week it was. Got off to a pretty crazy start and definitely finished with one of the craziest games and endings we're going to see in this entire season. But it all started last week on Thursday Night Football with the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers. Both teams were coming off of a victory, and New York was going to be without Ahmad Bradshaw and Hakeem Nicks, and that is why I predicted the Carolina Panthers to win. They had the run game going in week 2. And I did not think that Cam Newton would play this poorly, but Eli Manning stepped up, had a big day without Hakeem Nicks, and Victor Cruz didn't even do much in this game. It was all about Ramses Barden and Martellus Bennett, as well as Andre Brown making his first career start. And I didn't think Cam Newton played very well at all. I think it was one of the worst games I've seen him play as, and New York won in this one big, 36-7. St. Louis at Chicago. St. Louis was coming off of an upset victory over the Redskins, while Chicago had been pummeled by Clay Matthews and the Packers defense. And this one really played out the way I thought it would play out, although I predicted a 20-17 victory. I thought Chicago would just get this one out, but their defense played very good. They held the Rams to 6 points. They didn't even get a touchdown. And Bradford only threw for like 150 yards, and they couldn't do anything on the ground. And so I was 1-1 at this point, but it was an overall poor week of picking again, because Sunday alone featured, I believe, 8 upsets, and there were 9 total on the entire week. And after a week where I had terrible predictions, I had another week of terrible predictions, but I had a better week than the week before. A lot of people had bad picking weeks last week, and hopefully I can pick it up again this week. I said that last week, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I like doing these predictions, but I just wish I would be right more often. But Buffalo at Cleveland. I took Cleveland in this game because I thought they could stop C.J. Spiller, and the only way to stop C.J. Spiller, I guess, is him getting injured, as he got hurt in, I believe, the first or second quarter. And Buffalo won this game 24-14 after Fitzpatrick had a great day through the air. Look at his numbers. I mean, I did not expect this. I saw him play in week 2, and I'm like, wow, this guy, this is a one-dimensional running attack. And he comes out this week and he plays much more efficiently. And for the third week in a row, the Bills play in a way I did not expect them to play, and so now they're 2-1 after that week 1 game that kind of had me thinking they weren't as good as I thought they could be this year. And so I had that one wrong. And then Tampa Bay at Dallas. I like Tampa Bay this year, but for them to lose that game against the Giants last week, I thought was very detrimental. They shouldn't have lost that game. They gave up over 500 yards of passing, and they were close in this one. It was 16-10. Dallas won. I predicted a Dallas victory by a score of 27-17. But the Bucs could not do anything on offense through the air, through the ground, and it was a very close game. And in the end, Dallas was victorious. So I was 2-2 up until that point. And then a lot of the upsets started to roll in the early games. We had Jacksonville winning over Indianapolis, and Cecil Shorts finally got that game-winning touchdown after the Vikings stole one in Minnesota with Blair Walsh's 55-yard dagger in the first game of the season for those two teams. But Andrew Luck wasn't as sharp in this game. He didn't even complete half of his passes, and Blaine Gabbert wasn't either. But Maurice Jones-Drew ran for a $177. He is back. He has not missed much of a step after his holdout, and he is still one of the top running backs in the game. Definitely top 3, I'd have to say. And so Cecil Shorts 80-yard touchdown catch for the win, and the Jacksonville Jaguars have gotten their first win of the season. And I had predicted the Colts to win this game after they played very good against the Minnesota Vikings, and the score I predicted for that game was a 27-13 victory for Indy. On to the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. This one didn't play out exactly how I thought it would, but I knew it would be close to an extent. I thought the Jets had a very good defense that could make Ryan Tannehill make some mistakes, and of course he did, throwing a pick-6 in this game. But the Jets also lost all-pro cornerback, probably best in the league, Darrelle Revis, to an ACL tear, done for the season. And this game ended up going to overtime, which the Jets won on a field goal by Nick Folk. The Jets won 23-20 after I predicted a 20-14 victory, one of my closest predictions on the weekend. And then on to San Francisco at the Minnesota Vikings, one of the proposed best teams in the NFL against the Minnesota Vikings. And the Vikings came out on fire in this game, and they played very effectively. I made a video about this game on my channel. You can go and check that one out. But when I make these picks, I do it as if I were a betting man, and I took San Francisco 27-16, and I hope my Minnesota Vikings can keep this up. So next game on the list, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the New Orleans Saints. Now, I've picked New Orleans all 3 weeks this season, And pretty much because of one player on the team, and that is Drew Brees. And I keep thinking he's going to take over the game, he's going to get that team ready, but clearly that defense has a lot of trouble if they give up a 24-6 lead in this game, and they allow 5 drives to score in the second half, including 4 field goals by Ryan Succop to get a 27-24 victory. And I think this might be the first week I pick against the Saints as they travel to Lambeau Field against the angry Green Bay Packers after last night's game. But Kansas City won this game. Jamaal Charles had over 200 yards rushing. He had a 90-plus yard touchdown in the second half. And perhaps we're seeing the true value of a good head coach with Sean Payton not being there and Joe Vitt not being there. We'll see if the Saints can get on track this week or anytime soon. Next up, Detroit and Tennessee, the no defense game. It was a 44-41 victory for the Tennessee Titans. This one went to overtime after Detroit made a crazy comeback in the final seconds of the game to force overtime, and then Jim Schwartz wanted to try to go for the first down instead of kicking a field goal to extend the game, and the Titans ended up winning in this one. And Matt Stafford went down with an injury. We'll see how he does this week if he plays against the Minnesota Vikings. And Mikel Short played his first NFL game. He had 100 yards rushing. And I still have to go back and watch the game, but I think that's pretty impressive for him in his first game coming off of all these injuries, all this controversy. I'm definitely looking forward to see if he can bring a balanced running game to the Detroit Lions because they've needed the running back to step up with all the injuries they've been having and Mikel Short and his suspensions. And so we'll see how that goes. But once again, Chris Johnson shut down, 24 yards rushing on 14 carries, and for the third week in a row, Chris Johnson can't do anything because I think LaDainian Tomlinson is right about him not playing with toughness and not attacking the hole. The difference between him and CJ Spiller right now is that CJ Spiller will attack the hole and try to earn those yards and not just assume the offensive line is going to do the job for him. That's the difference. And I had predicted a 24-17 victory for Detroit because their offense is good. Tennessee's offense has not been very good this year, but Detroit's defense is very bad, especially their banged-up secondary. And so Tennessee gets this game and gives me another loss on the week. And next up, we move on to Cincinnati at Washington. And the Bengals weren't overly impressive in their win over the Browns. That game was very close, and Washington lost a heartbreaker to the Rams after Josh Morgan's stupid penalty. But the Bengals really stepped up in this game. I mean, Andy Dalton threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. A.J. Green shows why he's one of the emerging receivers in the NFL. And Washington's defense clearly has some problems with it now with the holes from those injuries. And they have to rebound because in the first week, they were one of the most impressive teams. And now sitting at 1-2 after 2 tough losses, they have to rebound and figure out how to get back on the winning track if they're going to be competitive in the NFC East, which I would say is the most entertaining division in the NFL. On to Philadelphia at Arizona. And okay, Arizona, you win. I was wrong 3 weeks in a row. That defense is for real, and Michael Vick could not do anything against this defense. 27-6 Arizona. And I debated with myself over this pick when I was making my selections earlier last week. I was like, okay, Arizona's defense is very good. There's no doubt about that. But how low can they keep the Eagles' point total, and is Michael Vick going to give this game to the Arizona Cardinals? And once again, he had a couple of turnovers in this one. And so I think we see a pattern of consistency here. The Eagles turn the ball over too much, and the Cardinals have a for-real defense, and they're a 3-0 football team on the rise, and Kevin Kolb is playing much better than we all had seen him play after that Hall of Fame game against New Orleans in Week 1 of the preseason. He has definitely come a long way. And like always, I was reading some Pro Football Talk while I was away from home this weekend, and I saw an article that said Jeremy Maclin will be out against the Cardinals. I'm like, oh man, I think I should have picked the Cardinals, and they go out and get the victory. So props to the Arizona Cardinals. They are for real. And hopefully I do some better analysis this week and can finally rebound after this 2-week slide in my NFL picks after an okay week 1 going 9-7. On to Atlanta at San Diego, one of the games I did have right. And that is because I predicted the Falcons to win because of their great offense. I think Matt Ryan has played the best out of any quarterback this season, and he definitely showed up in San Diego after a shorter week thanks to that Monday Nighter. Traveling to the West Coast, no big deal. San Diego puts 3 points on the board. I knew they were going to get likely Gates and Matthews back, but I don't think Ryan Matthews is that much of a factor. I don't think he's all that effective in the first place. Matt Ryan, though, 3 more touchdown passes. Tony Gonzalez, Julio Jones, Michael Turner played much better. His best game of the season by far after that arrest he had after the Monday night game. And I was a little bit concerned about this one because the Chargers are a pretty good team. They are at home, and I think the Falcons had a couple of injuries, but I was right overall, and I had predicted a 31-17 victory, and Atlanta did get the victory. So once again, moving on now, we have Houston at Denver, and I've been picking against Houston now for the last 2 weeks. because I thought the Texans would be caught napping by the Jacksonville Jaguars by chance, and that obviously did not happen in week 2. And then this week, I thought that Peyton Manning would rebound more, and he sort of did towards the end. I mean, it made it very close. They had a shot towards the end, but I think one of the big plays there was Eric Decker not letting the punt go, and he wasted a lot of time off the clock, and they only got to run, I think, 1 or 2 more plays. It was one play, I think, before they had to do like a desperation lateral tossing play. And Houston got the victory by a score of 31-25 after it looked like Peyton Manning was going to engineer another fourth quarter comeback. Pittsburgh at Oakland. Now this was one this is my most confident pick in the week. Oakland has looked terrible for the first 2 weeks of the season, and then they beat Pittsburgh at home. So I guess rivalries bring the best out in football teams, and Pittsburgh's offense, they played well, but you let the Oakland Raiders score 34 points. Darren McFadden had a very long touchdown run early in the game, but Carson Palmer, he's played pretty effectively this year. He's just not throwing to the most talented receiving core in the NFL. But Darren McFadden played well. The Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, 4 touchdowns, almost 400 yards. But I expected so much more from the Pittsburgh defense, and this was not how I thought they would play. I predicted a Pittsburgh victory, 34-17. Oakland won this one, 34-31. On to Sunday Night Football, one of the worst officiated games of the week. New England at Baltimore. And what I wanted to see in this game was which Joe Flacco we would see. And so I saw him early throw an interception to Steve Gregory. I'm like, okay, that's the Joe Flacco we're going to see. 10-0 Patriots. Not off to a good start. But Flacco was able to connect in this game with Torrey Smith for a couple of touchdown passes, which was the story of this game because Torrey Smith was playing only hours after finding out about the death of his brother. Comes out with one of the gutsiest performances. I was pulling for him to play well, and he was a big part of the Ravens' victory. But it came down to a last-second field goal, kind of like it did in the AFC Championship game last year. A little bit different, but it was 27 yards. Justin Tucker made it. It was good. I mean, it was a debatable call, but if you look at the replay, it was good. There's no question. I mean, no one's doing the tirade about this call like they're doing about the Packers call and the Seahawks call last night. So Baltimore won this one 31-30 after I predicted a Baltimore victory 27-20. And then the final game of the week that everybody's going to talk about until some news story comes up and takes our attention away from it. But Green Bay and Seattle. I've made 2 videos now talking about a single play, of course, the last play with Golden Tate and the proposed touchdown catch that I don't think was valid. I don't think he had control of that ball ever during that play, and I think MD Jennings got screwed out of an interception, and the Packers should have won that game. But I loved watching this game. I love watching defensive football. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense really struggled while Seattle's defense played phenomenal. But the fact that their defense was great is going to be overshadowed by this call and all the controversy surrounding it. But in the end, Seattle gets the victory. I'm wrong in my prediction, 26-17. Picking 26 points against the Seattle defense. Oh, man, it's going to be tough for any team to score that amount of points against this D. But the Seattle Seahawks won the football game by a score of 14-12 after all that controversy. We're not done hearing about it, that's definitely sure. I don't plan on talking about it more on my channel. But overall in my picks last week, I go 5-11, and so to recap the weeks of the season, I went 9-7 in week 1, was pretty confident going into week 2, then bust out a 4-12 picking performance last week, followed by 5-11 over this last weekend, which I'm not all that concerned about because there was 9 upsets, and it was a wacky weekend of NFL football, but hopefully this week is the week I get back on track. Overall, as it stands right now, I have a horrible picking record of 18-30. I am 12 picks below 500, so can I get back on track this week? We will find out. I'll have my picks and predictions video out on Saturday after I preview the Thursday Night Football matchup, probably Thursday afternoon. So anyways, guys, leave your thoughts on the NFL Week 3. It was a wacky weekend and definitely some crazy moments this past weekend. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.